from the World Agroforestry Center on filling harvest and nutrient gaps through site-specific food tree portfolios. Some background information: as we know, malnutrition is affecting 1 in 3 people worldwide, and while the low diversity and low consumption of the nutrient-rich foods like fruits and vegetables. And among the main reasons that hamper the food consumption are limitations on the supply side, including a lack of seasonal availability. Hence, the main objective of the project was to identify and promote the integration of food trees into farm and food systems to diversify diets, but also livelihoods of target beneficiaries. And the target groups were smallholder farming communities in East Africa with a focus on young women, mothers and children. And if you're wondering what we mean with food trees, these are trees that are providing edible fruits, but not only fruits, they also provide vegetables, seeds, nuts and edible oils. And why trees? Well, because trees have a high tolerance to drought, but they are also important at times when other food sources are not available. The project took place in Kenya and in Uganda in 4 different counties, characterized by different agricultural zones, and the time frame was from 2016 to 2018, so we are still running the project. Here you see the agroforestry approach that was developed to address the harvest and nutrient gaps. First of all, a site assessment of the farm and landscape was undertaken. This means that household and socioeconomic data were surveyed, as well as we wanted to know the information like which foods are actually produced on the farm, and in particular which tree species are produced on farm. And in the site assessment also focus group discussions were undertaken with farmers to understand which tree foods provide harvest at which time of the year. And not only production data are important, but also nutrition information, so which foods are people actually consuming. So for this, food insecurity data were assessed, as well as the dietary diversity score and 24 hours recall. And both this information, the production information and the information about the nutrients, were combined to develop the food tree portfolios, which are defined as site-specific combinations of food trees to provide for a year-round harvest to fill nutrient gaps in the local food system. And the first step is to provide or to disseminate seed and seedlings, but also trainings were undertaken, demonstration plots, and also school gardens were established. So I want to show you now how we actually developed such a food tree portfolio. Here you can see a fruit tree portfolio, because the project is building on a previous one which was focusing mainly only on fruits. So first of all, this is the calendar, what you see, that is being developed together with the farmers to understand which trees provide at which time of the year fruits for consumption, and what's shaded in green are actually the harvest seasons or the harvest months. And this information then was combined with, it was combined with food insecurity data. You should actually see it, but it was mapped with the percentage of food insecurity. And basically the idea of developing this portfolio was that each month at least 1 fruit species is ready for harvest, and even during this hunger gap, what you can see, which is marked in red. So with this we would fill the harvest gaps. And in order to map in the next step these fruit species also with nutrient data, we were mapping the tree species with food composition data from the scientific literature, but also from existing food composition databases, and we were applying international guidelines from FAO InFoods, and we were not only compiling them, we were also standardizing and aggregating this information. And in order to simplify the food composition information for the portfolios, we were scoring the foods to whether they are a high source or a source, or also no source of selected nutrients. Unfortunately, we also had a lot of foods where we had no food composition information because there's just a lack of data. Okay, so here you can see basically an example of a full profile with the seasonal calendar, with the food insecurity information, and also with the information on vitamin C and vitamin A. Like, these two nutrients were chosen at the beginning since fruits are a main source of vitamins, and many fruits are also a main source of vitamin A. And in the next step, so the portfolio was also extended, since I mentioned at the beginning, like, trees not only provide fruits, but also vegetables and nuts. But this portfolio now does not only include also tree foods, but also other crops. And it was also extended to more nutrients where we had data from, like we included also folate and iron. And a focus of the project is also to promote underutilized fruits. So as we know, usually like orange is a reference point for a fruit with a high vitamin C content, but when we look in fact into the fruits that are locally available, the underutilized species like baobab or marula, they have up to 5 times higher vitamin C content. The same is true for amaranth leaves, which are rich not only in vitamin A, vitamin C, but also in iron and folate. And last but not least, we identified several community entry points for agriculture to nutrition behavior change. This means that several agriculture and nutrition innovation hubs were established, so different trainings on agroforestry and tree management are taking place, but also trainings on marketing on foods. The portfolios are disseminated, as well as demonstration plots and dissemination of seedlings. In addition, the agriculture and nutrition innovation hubs are developed together with local partners, like to sustain also these innovation hubs after the project is ending. Then we were also working together with partners to establish school kitchen gardens. Nutrition education and cooking sessions were undertaken. And also we started in the chain of developing novel food tree products. So here key informant interviews were undertaken with important people from the private sector, but also from the nationals, but understanding like the food value addition sector, and also testing of processing and product development was undertaken together with Jomo Kenyatta University on mango and tamarind. And activities are still going on until the end of the year. So reports and articles are in the pipeline. If you want to know more, please also look at our webpage, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Barbara. So if the audience doesn't have questions, I actually have a question for you. So often when we are trying to promote particularly fruit trees, but it might be true also for the oilseed trees and the nut seed trees, the time that it takes for when you plant the sapling until you actually have mature fruit is often longer than your project duration. So how do you speak with the donors about how you're going to show impact, particularly on diet diversity, when you've just planted the trees and they're not going to have fruit for several years?
Of course, it's an issue. Like when you talk about planting a tree, like if you start, it can take at minimum up to 2 to 3 years, right? And our project duration is like for 2 years. But we hope that for the first time also that it hopefully will be extended. And then, as I said, we also promote like the utilization of tree foods which are already available. So it's also not only planting new tree foods, but also using, in fact, existing resources.
Thank you so much for the very interesting presentation. It's more a comment than a question. I think it is very nice to see that it really takes from the beginning to the end, and demonstrating that the approach as a food system is really working. And because you started with the seedling, with the training, with the agricultural production, then you also worked on the consumption side and on the marketing side. And I think this is really great. And I think this is really demonstrating of a good example of how we should work in the future and having much more chances to success.
Thank you.
Okay, last chance. Any questions?
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, including methodologies and also outcome. I wonder if you have also, plan to conduct analysis about this kind of income generation, especially coming to this kind of seasonal gap of increasing production during that kind of calendars, and how much additional benefit that can benefit the local people.
Yes, definitely. So, as I mentioned in the last slide, like the different entry points that we have identified, I mean, it's just a very short period, 2 times. So we've just started also, like for diversifying the livelihoods. It's basically that we work with the farmers to understand like what are the value change of the fruits and where can they best be marketed. But it's something for the future.